And so that's the only source of inflation. And I don't care how the government wants to define it. I mean, they're just ignoring the definition because the real definition places the blame for inflation where it belongs, on government. Because if you understand that inflation is the expansion of the money supply, well, who does that? Yeah, right? It's the government. Greedy corporations don't print money, they have to earn the money. Same thing as Putin. Putin can't cause our inflation. He can't print our money. I mean, he can cause inflation in Russia. He can print rubles, but he can't print dollars. So he can't be the source of U.S. inflation. So all this is the politicians and the central bankers trying to shift the blame of inflation onto the public.
In a landscape shadowed by inflationary pressures, Peter Schiff offers a provocative reevaluation of market dynamics. While conventional wisdom suggests a downturn in stocks and real estate, Schiff proposes a divergent narrative. Gold holders may unearth unprecedented opportunities. However, as the safety net of government intervention wanes, the prospect of navigating this economic terrain grows increasingly treacherous. Join us as we dissect the intricate interplay of inflation, market forces, and the looming specter of recession in search of clarity amidst the uncertainty. So, don't go anywhere. Watch till the end.
The stock prices and real estate prices may actually not come down that much. I mean, there may be some individual stocks that do, like a lot of overpriced tech stocks, so those stocks could come down. But the overall stock market may not come down that much. Real estate market may not come down that much because of inflation. But if instead of sitting on a bunch of cash, you're sitting on a stockpile of gold, that might be the opportunity. You may be able to sell your gold and buy a lot of cheap stocks and real estate in terms of your gold. Because maybe stock prices, real estate prices go up 50%, right? But gold goes up 500%, right? That means that in terms of gold, stock and real estate prices crashed. And so I think that's where people are going to see the bargains, or maybe even in some foreign currencies, you may see more significant declines in the value of U.S. Financial assets and real estate. So it may not play out the way it's played out in prior recessions. And also, in prior recessions, the government has been able to artificially goose the economy with bigger deficit spending and 0% interest rates. But high inflation may prevent that from happening. So the Fed may not be able to provide the type of stimulus that everybody has been accustomed to. And also the bailouts. When we had the financial crisis, when we had COVID, there were lots of stimulus checks coming in the mail, a lot of bailouts. We may not be able to do that again because the reason we're in so much trouble now is because we borrowed so much money back then to pay for those bailouts and stimulus programs. So this time we may not be able to do it again, which means we're going to go through a recession where nobody gets any help from the government. And nobody who's failing gets a bailout. So that could be a much more severe economic downturn than we're used to, without that offsetting help from the government. Of course, the government help came at a huge cost. The cost was everything being so much worse in the future because we just kicked the can down the road and made the problems that we were dealing with at the time even bigger, but we postponed the day of reckoning to some future date. Well, exactly, because the economic solution that the Fed has always come up with for every problem was inflation. In fact, if you think about quantitative easing, that's just a euphemism for inflation, right? Quantitative easing is inflation. It's printing money and buying government bonds. That's inflation. That's right there. You're inflating the money supply. That's where the word comes from. It means inflation means to expand. And it's the money supply that gets expanded. In fact, if you get an old enough Webster's dictionary, that's what it says, that inflation is an expansion of the supply of money and credit. Prices simply rise as a consequence of inflation. They are not inflation, nor do they cause the inflation. They result from inflation. So if the Fed has always created inflation to get us out of every recession, if we finally have a recession that's actually caused by high inflation, where high inflation is the major problem that is confronting the economy, how does the Fed then use its standard playbook of more inflation to solve a problem that in and of itself was caused by inflation. And so that's why they're in a no-win situation, right? You can't fight inflation with more inflation. And it's not like, fight a hangover by taking another drink, right? Just, more of the dog that bit you. That isn't going to work. More inflation isn't going to solve a problem of too much inflation. I mean, corporations are always greedy. And so we should always have inflation then. I mean, everybody is greedy. I mean, not just corporations. Everybody who has a business is greedy in the sense that they want to make as much profit as they can. All workers are greedy. I mean, they're trying to get the highest wages they can. When you're looking for a job, you try to find the employer who's going to pay you the most. And if you think you're worth more, you'll go and demand a raise, right? So everybody wants to earn more. So that can't be the reason that we have inflation, or we'd always have a lot of inflation. See, the problem is, as greedy as a businessman is, or corporation is, there's competition. Yeah, I'd love to raise my prices, but the problem is the customer will take their business someplace else if I do. And so really what happens is the greedy businessman, the greedy corporation tries to lower prices. What the profit-seeking company understands is the lower the price, the more I sell. So if I can figure out how to lower my price, I'm going to do more business and I'll make even more money because I'll have more sales. Greed is actually a reason for prices to go down and not for prices to go up. So the only reason that you have inflation is that the government is inflating the money supply. And so our money is worth less because there's more of it. And so now prices have to rise to reflect a new equilibrium with more money. And so that's the only source of inflation. And I don't care how the government wants to define it. I mean, they're just ignoring the definition because the real definition places the blame for inflation where it belongs, on government. Because if you understand that inflation is the expansion of the money supply, well, who does that? All right? It's the government. Greedy corporations don't print money. They have to earn the money. Same thing as Putin. Putin can't cause our inflation. He can't print our money. I mean, he can cause inflation in Russia. He can print rubles, but he can't print dollars. So he can't be the source of U.S. inflation. So all this is the politicians and the central bankers trying to shift the blame of inflation onto the public, or, just onto the corporations that everybody hates anyway, these damn greedy corporations. Biden is all upset about what he calls shrinkflation, or not. He didn't make up that name. It's been around. But companies have been playing this, trick for a long time to deal with inflation. And so what companies try to do, rather than just raise prices, is they just shrink the packages, or they put less of a product in a package. They make the candy bars smaller. They put less cereal in a box, fewer rolls of toilet paper, in the roll, right? And and people don't notice the price increases. This is not because they're greedy. I mean, they're just trying to figure out the best way to pass on inflation to their customers in a way that may not piss them off as much, but it's not their fault. They don't want to put less cereal in the box, but they got no choice. It's either that or raise the prices, right? So the consumer in many cases responds better to a smaller quantity of cereal. But, at some point you can't just keep shrinking these things down forever.
Thanks for tuning into our channel. If you found this discussion on inflation, market trends, and the economy insightful, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for more thought-provoking content. Remember, navigating the ever-changing economic landscape requires staying informed and adaptable. Until next time, stay curious and stay ahead of the curve. See you in the next video.